Hey everybody, Luke Thomas here. Hope you're doing okay. All right, so at the press conference for yesterday's Silva versus Hall event, UFC President Dana White announced, confirmed, depending on what language you want to use here, but he basically said Israel Adesanya's next fight in the first quarter of 2021, it will not be against Robert Whittaker. It will not be against Jon Jones, but it will be at 205 pounds. There's a lot to get to here. First things first, please give the video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Okay, so what did he say and what does it mean? Let's get to it. So, believe it or not, this is what he said. White claimed that Israel Adesanya, who by the way was in attendance in Las Vegas for the Silva and Hall event, that UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya is going to move to 205 in his next fight and fight existing champion up there, Jan Blachowicz. Yes, that is right. Not Jon Jones, at least not right away. Not Robert Whittaker, at least not right away. Jan Blachowicz. And for a lot of reasons, this actually makes a fair amount of sense. First, if you look at somebody who the UFC has been really investing in and has been a pretty good partner for them as well, he does a lot of media for them. He is charismatic. He has an incredible fight style. He's part of a burgeoning market. He's young. He's brash. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why the UFC would want to get behind somebody like Israel Adesanya. And he has built and built and built and built his fame. He hasn't reached like superstar status yet, but he is incrementally gaining event over event. This would be something where if he was a double champ, I think would really help his stock, right? To join the ranks of Cejudo and McGregor and Penn and Cormier and blah, 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 and Couture and all those guys, people who held titles simultaneously, Amanda Nunes, you can throw whoever you want in there. It would really put him in very, very elite company, okay? And that would really help develop the star that he has slowly morphed into. Not superstar quite yet, but certainly the star. Okay, so one, it just aids that effort. Two, there's a reasonable chance he can win. Like, on its own, is that a good fight? No doubt about it. I'm not here to discount Jan Blachowicz's chances, but I still think anybody could look at this and say for a guy who has fought as high as heavyweight before in Israel Adesanya, this is at least competitive on paper. If he loses, he just goes back down to middleweight. Now, if he loses, it ruins a potential fight with Jon Jones. That is true. But if he wins, I mean, think about it there. Jon Jones has moved up. During that time, Adesanya's winning. He goes up, takes the title from the apparent heir to Jon Jones at 205 pounds. And at that point, you just have so much heat between them, right? He has moved in, taken the spot, right? He's dual champ at the same time, something Jon's never been. All kinds of stuff. I mean, it would just really put him in a rarefied air, and the kind that would probably annoy Jon Jones to no end. You saw Jon Jones after Khabib had this sort of flawless potential end of his career. He just couldn't have any discussion out there saying anything other than there should be praise for him. Can you imagine how Jones would take Adesanya moving up and then occupying two belts at once, right? I mean, and even then, that's something that's fairly rare, right? Not just having two titles like a Couture or a Penn, but having two at the same time. I mean, that would really, I think, just set him into overdrive, and then that would set up that fight. Now, would that fight be set up at 205 for Jon to come back and claim his title? Would he move up to a third weight class at heavyweight? Like, it leaves some questions about where Jon Jones goes from here, because you also heard Dana White saying they're looking at a first quarter, potentially March fight for the rematch between Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. Still, you can just look at this and survey and say this could be good for Adesanya. Could be good for Blachowicz too, by the way. If he wins, how much he could blow up his stock. That should not be lost here. But if Adesanya wins, good for him. Good for a future fight with Jon Jones, right? Good to set all that up. There's just a lot of really good possibilities that could come from it. Now, it leaves two remaining issues, though. One, apparently, according to White, the reason why Whittaker's not going to get the title shot, because, he just beat Jared Cannonier, is because Whittaker said he basically didn't want it. That was not something he was looking for right away. And so they said, okay, well, we had planned to give it to Whittaker. I guess now we're not. Frankly, I kind of understand that from Whittaker. It wasn't that long ago that he had lost to Israel Adesanya. He is looking really good at the top of that division. I'm not sure who the obvious challenger for him might be, but I'm sure they can find one. We'll see how things go. But, really getting back into the swing of things before just jumping back in there, because you lose to Adesanya twice, and now you're in some real peril. Taking your time with this, he's still a young guy, figuring things out, and then maybe getting it down the road. Not the worst idea I've ever heard, to be honest with you. Not the worst idea at all. So I'm sure it's surprising and maybe unfortunate for some. I don't think it's that bad of a call. The one thing that it does make weird is, as you guys know, if you win 2 titles, unless you're Amanda Nunes, who is really reigning over a division and a half, there's no real way to defend both. So what would Adesanya give up if he got both? That remains an interesting question. The other part about it is, what are you supposed to do with Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira, who are fighting here in short order? You would have thought that the winner of that would have faced Blachowicz, but what is going to happen with them? Are they going to sit around and wait for the winner of Adesanya and Blachowicz? How soon can Adesanya and Blachowicz fight? We haven't had an announced date yet, 2021, but okay, we don't have an announced date. So there's a lot of uncertainty there about what it does for those number 1 contenders or those top spots. I would argue that Thiago Santos losing, having time off, and then coming back and winning 1, maybe not is sufficient, but you're fighting Glover Teixeira. Glover at this point would have earned 1, and if you beat the guy who would have earned 1, I guess by default you kind of earn 1. And also, Santos and Blachowicz have met before, and Santos won. So there's some rivalry there in that sense. But a lot of moving pieces, a lot of moving parts to this one. But I got to say, a little bit of a curveball when it comes to the career of Adesanya, but an escalation of things just the same. It could become a champ, could set things up for all kinds of possibilities at that point. Does create some complications along the way. And by the way, none of this is like confirmed. UFC hasn't announced it. I don't think it's been independently reported as signed, sealed, and delivered. But this, at a bare minimum, appears to be the direction that the Ultimate Fighting Championship is headed. Okay, so a lot to chew on, and more will be chewed on Monday's Morning Kombat. Give the video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Tune in Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the return of Morning Kombat. This will be gone over. The Davis Santa Cruz fight and the boxing side will be gone over. A whole lot of stuff. So plenty of goodness coming your way. All right? See you all later.